All right, well, welcome everybody. Those of you who are here for this UACEP webinar. Today, we are gonna have David Kearl talk to us a little bit about the difference between a high school experience and a college experience, and just a little bit about David. So he is one of our college experience liaisons that we have here at Salt Lake Community College. Basically, several years ago, we realized that there's really two parts to the concurrent enrollment experience. There's learning the college content and having a college experience. Because I mean, theoretically, you could teach the college content, you could teach a list of learning outcomes or strands and standards and deliver those as a high school experience or as a college experience. So what is the difference between those? And David's going to talk a little bit about those today and talk about some of the things that he does and just this big difference of what is a college experience versus a high school experience. So with that said, I'm going to turn the time over to David. Let him take it from here.
Hey everybody, thanks for joining us. I'm on the call. I just am sort of looking through. I know that Robert Thorne is also on the call with us, so he's one of my colleagues. There are four of us who fill this position as College Experience Liaison at SLCC. I work with automotive, diesel technology, and social sciences. It's sort of fun to group those three together. Robert works with our science, technology, our engineering and mathematics partners, and then Wade Bentley works with humanities instructors, and Trudy Richardson works with visual, culinary, and performing arts. And then I think also that some of the CTE and trades classes as well. And so what we do is we are really concerned with sort of every part of the CE experience that our teachers intersect with, but we're primarily interested in helping instructors, as Brandon mentioned, helping instructors create an authentic college experience for students. So I wanted to share my screen. I'm going to try and do this. If you believe it or not, over the last 20 months or so, this is the first time I've done share a screen. So cross our fingers. I don't know. Okay, it says I'm screen sharing. So this is a document that was developed by Trudy, Wade, and Robert before I was hired. It's a document that I've had some input into. We've also sought out input from our college faculty partners and from our high school faculty partners to develop this. But this document is our college experience evaluation tool. And so the four of us will go and we will visit instructors who are teaching CE classes, and we will sit somewhere in their classroom and we will observe them teach, and then we'll use this document to guide our evaluation. It's divided into several sections that are connected to essentially to the instructor's pedagogy and to their classroom management. And it's also built around a conversation or discussion. One of the reasons that I'm sort of a little discombobulated, I just came back from visiting with an instructor, and we spent almost an hour working through these analysis questions. So we talk with instructors about what they are consciously doing to create this college culture that we're looking for. So if you see under preliminary analysis, we ask them what elements of a college culture are you creating, which in my experience has been a really valuable tool for understanding what they understand about what constitutes a college culture. It's been really fascinating to see how many folks have a sense of college that is arbitrary, in the sense that it's sort of like, well, college is what I did when I was a college student 10, 15, 20 years ago, right? Which is maybe not accurate or maybe not relevant to what college might be in a general sense. So these analysis questions are really productive, or they're really valuable, because they help us as liaisons understand what kinds of resources we need to offer to instructors who are maybe creating systems that are arbitrary instead of organic, or restrictive where they might be more open or productive. The second question is, what kinds of interventions do instructors offer for students who are struggling? And this creates another really interesting opportunity for training and development, where we see some interesting points of interplay between the pedagogy of what people think a college experience is versus what it actually is. Then we have this is the actual content of the evaluation. I'll put a link up for this in just a moment where you can grab a copy of this document if you want to take a look at it, to see what we're looking at sort of specifically, the kinds of pedagogy and management we're looking at specifically. But we come back to this section of instructor analysis where we ask the instructors to reflect on their practices. So we ask them what did they feel are most effective, what's less effective, and what would they do differently. And then we also ask them for evidence about where they see their students growing and changing, and what specific evidence do they see them developing, or do they see in terms of them developing into successful college students. And what we find is that what I find rather, and Robert, please feel free to jump in at any point. But what I find when I'm visiting, and I'm also going to stop sharing, I think. Okay. What I find when I'm visiting with our high school partners is that folks have a strong sense that something is or isn't a high school experience or a college experience that's often really not grounded in anything other than sort of their own assumptions, if that makes sense. And so it's been very useful to talk with them about what we see college instructors doing, and how that might be normalized in a high school classroom. So for example, this morning I worked with an instructor who is teaching a criminal justice class, and he felt this is his second year of teaching CE, and he was really concerned about the quality of his students' writing. He said, they just are not writing at a college level. And they said, well, okay, well, let's talk about what that means. And he had some very specific ideas that were actually really accurate about about where their deficiencies were, right? That they were not doing things that they needed to be doing to be successful in a college setting. And so I asked him, well, what are you doing? How are you helping your students develop those competencies? And he worked through a set of steps and then said, is this okay? Or is that something that they would only do in high school? And so we were able to have a really productive conversation about what I'm seeing in all of the other classes that I'm observing, that then ended with me saying, here's some instructors you can reach out to. Here's some folks you might look at as being a kind of PLC for the particular class you're teaching. And also, what information have you gotten from your faculty liaison, who is also there to help you keep that college experience working and in play? And what in that particular case, what we walked away with is that instructor had a sense that what he was doing was authentic to what the college expected him to do, that it was helping his students grow into the role of college students. And he also walked away with a set of resources that he could draw on moving forward into the future. In a sense, the idea that I like to have in the back of my mind when I'm visiting our instructors is to help them see their classroom as an extension of SLCC, or sort of like a little miniature campus of SLCC there in the school, and help them feel like they are connected to SLCC, not sort of in its orbit, if that makes sense, but to help them see themselves as a representative and faculty member at SLCC. And the way that I've been working to do that is to give them access to the human capital and sort of the curriculum capital that exists in that environment. And so this college experience evaluation has been the tool that we've used to kind of guide that conversation. That's sort of, I don't know, sort of what I've got on my mind right now. Robert, did you have any thoughts? Or I don't know, I'm just looking down to see if there's anything in the chat. Did anyone have any thoughts or concerns or questions?
I'm wondering, David, if you could talk a little bit about what is the difference between a college experience and a high school experience, and sort of how we've determined that. And you could even use that. We have that sheet on our website that might be a good tool to share with folks.
Sure, I'm just going to grab that sheet really quick. So,
okay,
this is a document, and I'm going to share my screen again. All right.
Because I mean, that's a big question that a lot of folks have is like, so like we're talking about a college experience. Well, what exactly is that? and how do you determine that? And I think we've done some pretty good research on what that is. I think it might be worth sharing.
Sure. So this is a document here, and again, I can make this available. But we identified a couple of key points of difference. And so the first one is that in a high school setting, a high school institution generally views students as children whose behavior and expectations have to be managed by the institution, right? Students have to ask for permission to go and use the restroom. They have to kind of generate a list of excuses for why they're not present in class. Their movement in between areas in the school is really managed and surveilled and sort of, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a third word to describe that, but it's really controlled. Whereas at a college, students are viewed as adults, ideally, hopefully as colleagues, but certainly as adults who are responsible for their own choices and actions. And so one example of where our faculty play with this idea is almost all of the concurrent enrollment instructors I work with talk about this tension that exists where students have to unlearn asking to use the restroom, right? Because they're high school students and they have kind of this Paul Newman-esque experience where they're like, can I leave your classroom? Can I have permission to go? And the high school faculty say, you're a college student now, you can step out if you need to. Another point that we identified as distinct is that in high school, courses are designed to prepare students for college and career readiness, and they are assessed through standardized tests. So we talk about teaching to the test, right? That there are these standardized tests. Whereas in college, there's a sense that courses are designed to prepare students for the next step in an instructional sequence or a career, and that students are expected to be college ready when they arrive. So there's a different approach to handing in students information, to helping students develop those skills. A lot of our CE instructors talk about helping students become advocates for themselves and helping students use tools that exist to serve them rather than sort of spoon feeding them information when they talk about this point. The third idea that we identified is that faculty at a high school, in a high school context, often focus on presenting information that's immediately relevant to the course's summative assessment, right? So they're teaching to the test. Whereas in a college setting, the faculty often have the expectation that students will learn to learn and that they'll access information in course material, whether it's addressed in class or not, or whether it's immediately relevant to the test or not. So the CE faculty who I work with will often talk about helping students become responsible for their learning or develop these kind of metacognitive skills that enable them to pursue their own interests outside the class, and sort of find. An instructor I visited yesterday talked about, he called it a so what question, where the students, he said he felt like high school students learning ended when they took the test. And so he talks about using the question, so what, to prompt students to push it a little bit further. As that being one of the college behaviors that he was teaching them. The next element that we identified is that student grades are tied to multiple assessments of varying complexity. So if you look at a Canvas course that is designed for a high school classroom, there'll be a ton of assignments, right? And lots of them are kind of, instructors will often describe them as small or big assignments, right? They'll say this is a little assignment or that's a big assignment. Whereas in a college classroom, you know, a student might have an experience where 60 or 70% of their grade is tied to one assessment, or maybe one or two assessments. So their grades are tied to fewer assessments of higher complexity. And our instructors talk about the difficulty of helping students change their approach to understanding grades in this way. And then the next item on our list is looking at the high school idea that student participation, so movement, arrival, and departure, and access to technology is limited by school security policies. I was talking with an instructor the other day who said that they had to call the school's IT office to get SLCC's website whitelisted because it had been blocked by their school's firewall, right? There's the idea that information can be limited. I think we're looking at this in the Canyons district right now. The Canyons district has banned a number of books, or just this week removed a number of books from their library. And all of that seems totally antithetical to the college, where student participation, movement, and access to technology and information might be regulated by the instructor. But I wonder if that's backwards. I wonder if we've got those swapped. I would argue that anyway, we might need to revise this one. Sorry, everybody. But I would say that at the college level, because students are adults and because we're training them to become our peers, there are very few restrictions, or those restrictions are maybe ethical rather than procedural, right? We encourage students to seek out information in a way that a high school environment doesn't. The next step is that at a high school level, classroom management is a response to student behavior and attitude about the course. In the college level, classroom management is a response to students' behavior rather than their attitude. So the idea that our high school partners will often say in these conversations that their approach to managing student behavior is very different, because they find that students whose behavior is problematic self-select and don't take these courses. Our CE instructors talk about how students, they get the best of the best. And so one of the concerns that we have as concurrent enrollment, as a concurrent enrollment department, is actually maybe changing this a little bit and helping opening it up to students who don't see themselves as being college ready in that way. That's one that we kind of have to work on. But then the last idea here is that at the high school, instructors are responsible or made responsible in a way for student performance that is very different than at the college, where at the high school level, instructors are expected to reach out to failing students, and then dealing with a whole array of negotiation around the resubmission of incomplete or work or incorrect work. A lot of the districts that we work with have implemented policies where instructors are obligated to take work past deadlines, and they're obligated to let students resubmit it for correction. Whereas at the college, we have a very different system in place, and that system is the decisions about how grades are assigned and about how assignments are submitted are made in a very different way. And so this is one area where we have some tension, where high school instructors who we work with talk about having to create exceptions for CE courses, having to create exceptions to the district policies for CE courses, and they have to spend some time with students talking to them about how this is particularly different because these policies that you use to sort of avoid or navigate around deadlines are different in this class. And so this is maybe the number one thing. This is probably the most common element that instructors reflect on when we talk with them as part of our process, is they talk about helping students grow out of an attitude of alternate in whenever or alternate in however, because I know I can always negotiate it later, to helping students become responsible to institutional deadlines, helping them become responsible for advocating around those deadlines. This last item, I guess you can't see me pointing at my screen right now, but this last item is one of the really critical differences. Anyhow, I will share these two documents out to anyone who's interested. But I don't know, Brandon, does that address the concern you had?
Yeah, not really a concern, but
suggestion
just a point of clarification for everyone.
Let me grab that link and I'm going to drop it into the chat for anyone who's looking for it, because it's just up on our website.
Do you want to maybe show some of the other resources that we've created for instructors to help help them sort of understand what these differences are between a high school experience and a college experience?
Absolutely. I'm going to grab just a couple of them. I'm going to put up into the chat so you can sort of pull them away. But the next one I'm putting up is a video that Brandon produced. It's a video that that we've encouraged instructors to play on the first day of class. That really succinctly kind of establishes a mood for concurrent enrollment. And then we also have a set of their best practices videos, where we have gone and recorded instructors teaching and talking about how they define a college experience for their students. So these are actually videos of instructors working through some of their responses to these questions in our college experience evaluation. And then it's paired with video of them actually teaching, so them in the classroom. So these are all materials that we share out to teachers as we're training them and onboarding them, and that might help give a sense of what this looks like sort of in the field. And then the last thing I'm sharing is a link to the college experience evaluation. So yeah, these are all up in the chat. Is everyone able to see these?
Yeah, we can see them.
Cool.
You want to talk maybe also about the student evaluation and sort of how you use that also as sort of a 360 view of what's going on in the classroom?
Yeah, absolutely. So in 2019, in the spring of 2019, we invited instructors to come to the Jordan campus and to join us for a kind of debrief on this process, right? Because we implemented this college experience evaluation, and I know that Brandon got some survey information about it, but we also invited teachers to come and to kind of talk to us about what their experience was. And sort of overwhelmingly, a number of them were interested in having more direct feedback from students, because their sense was that the students are there every day, and that the students offer maybe more direct sense of feedback. I can't quite find the link right now, but I'll put it in just a moment. So we created a student evaluation that is anonymized and that instructors can share out. It's fairly simple. It's designed to provide qualitative responses where students can enter text in, and then they can also sort of respond to these questions. And we share the evaluations when we visit, and then we use that as part of our evaluation. So we get input from students, and it's really, oh yeah, Brandon shared it out in the chat. So it's really quite interesting to see how the observations I might have line up with what students are writing about, and then also to say how students sort of make it a little more real, I think, for the instructors, because if you have one CE instructor who drops in one day, well, that they just see what they see that day, but the students are there every day. And if you have 25 or 30 students who are all saying, here's what I like about the course, and I find that they're pretty specific about it. They also say, here's what I don't like about the course, and here's what I would encourage you to change. That becomes another way that the instructor can sort of refine their practices and grow and change.
Yeah, one thing I've seen with the student evaluations is it helps the instructors actually make a change during the semester they're actually teaching the course, versus where other evaluations you have it at the very end. And there's no way to change it for the students that are actually there. And one of the things that they said they like about these evaluations is it lets them know directly what they can improve on.
It's not a tool for it's a tool that's designed to help the instructor sort of self-assess. And it's interesting to me in that context of self-assessment, how often the instructors I work with will say things like, oh yeah, okay, I knew that, and it just gets reinforced to them when they have 20 or 30 students saying, hey, here's what it would be helpful if you could change this about the class. I'm thinking of one instructor in particular who almost all of his students said, less PowerPoint, please. The instructor just loves PowerPoints. And I said, my feelings aside, this is something you could, is hopefully more urgent for you to respond to. And it was valuable for them in that way.
Would you say too that a lot of time your evaluation reflects the student evaluation, that you're basically observing the same things that the students are observing, since the instrument is very, very similar, the student evaluation versus the college experience evaluation?
I would say that it's a great tool for triangulation. I have not had the experience where I haven't had an experience where an instructor has said sort of to my face, like, I don't agree with you, or that's not meaningful. At least not that well, actually I have once anyway, that doesn't matter. But the student evaluation, the student evaluation carries more weight because if I say it, again, I'm there once, maybe twice a year, but the students are there every day, and the instructors, I think what came out of our feedback meeting was the instructors were really interested in having that feedback as well. And the instructors know that the students are that's their constituency. And I'm not going to go around to students and say like, so-and-so's class is really boring, don't take it. But if they don't make those changes that the students are identifying, the students might say that. And so I found that they're pretty responsive to that, and that it does map up with generally with what I'm seeing. Although it is sort of funny to say that we might have a student who will write something like, I love the class because the teacher asked us to read a lot. And then in the same evaluation, you'll have another student say, I hate the class because the teacher asked us to read a lot, right? There's sort of two kinds of feedback, and both of those in my mind are good feedback. So anyway, that's, yeah.
Good. So do we have any questions? Is there anything else that, Robert, you want to add, or do we have any questions? You can post those in the chat, or you're welcome to just unmute yourself and ask those. Give everybody a second. All right. Well, if there are no questions, is there anything else, David, you wanted to add, or Robert?
No, just if, sorry, I'm just putting my email in the chat. So if anyone comes up with any questions or concerns, feel free to shoot me an email, or my phone number is in there too. You're welcome to give me a call. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks a lot for taking the time to share this. And just so everybody knows, we will, this is being recorded, so we'll go ahead and post it out to the UASEP listserv once that's done, and look forward to more webinars coming up. Thanks, everybody, and have a great day.